What's going on, everyone? This is Noah from Spanky the Sparky. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Bryan Johannson out of IBEW Local 993. I know it's in Canada, but I don't want to butcher where it's at, so I'll let you do that talking. But Bryan, first and foremost, thank you for coming on. I hope you're as excited as I am about this. It's also pretty cool. You're the first interview I've had outside of the U.S., so from my perspective, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, there we
exciting.
go.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. First and foremost, just give us a little insight about yourself. Any information you feel, I guess, comfortable sharing.
Sure, yeah. I've been a Sparky for about 8 years now. I run a service van for the company that I work for. I came up non-union for 2 years, and then I made the jump over to union. I've been with the union ever since. We specialize in commercial and residential and we dabble in industrial and stuff. So it's kind of you get to try on all different type of hard hats, so to speak. Yeah. No.
It's awesome. I guess to this point, did you enjoy? I'm assuming you do probably a little more commercial than residential, or do you do more residential than commercial in Canada?
Honestly, I'd say with the company that I'm with, it's more commercial customers calling, but I mean, we do everything from service upgrades to adding receptacles to, mill maintenance and lighting upgrades. Right now, I'm running a project for BC Housing. They're doing low-income families and
Nice.
basically brought a bunch of modulars down from Vancouver, and we're rebuilding all of them. Because of the build, we have to rerun all of the fire alarm, all of the sweep feeders, everything like that. So it's a pretty
Nice.
big project. It's a good one, though.
Nice. Before getting into the trades, what was your background like? Was it always, I guess, construction based, or was it something not related to construction or electrical at all? Or what made you, I guess, take the leap into the electrical trade?
Right. So, I mean, when I started in high school, my dad owned a finishing company.
Oh, nice.
So for construction, so I worked on weekends and stuff with him. And when I got out of high school, I tried some retail and stuff for a little bit, kind of finding the direction. And then I realized it wasn't too fruitful. I met a really great woman and wanted to give her more, so I started looking for something that would provide more for me.
Yeah,
And basically, I reached out to my dad and I was asking him a bunch of questions about trades and stuff like that. And he said the one trade that spooks the crap out of him is electrical because of all the live wires and stuff. And so it was kind of challenge accepted. I went for it.
that's awesome. What were, I guess, starting out especially, what was like the biggest learning curves you experienced?
Well, quite honestly, I had a lot of experience with hand tools and everything like that. I feel like I got brought up with a really good work ethic, so I had a bunch of the mannerisms and initial things in spades. The one thing I really struggled with was the math. Actually, I had been out of school for I think about 10 years when I
Yeah,
decided to go back
yeah,
and start my electricals. Even things like Pythagorean theorem, everything like that, like I was lost to it all. I was the student that was there, an hour early before class, an hour after class, always probably irritating the teacher with all the questions, everything like that, because it was just I had to basically relearn math all over again. So I'd say that was the biggest struggle.
yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is the amount of, I guess, math that's involved with being uh, an electrician. So I think that's always interesting to hear.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But yeah, we not only physically but mentally, electricians do have a lot of things that have to go correctly for things to work correctly. So I think that's important to notate, especially for someone that's interested in potentially getting into the electrical trade.
Absolutely. There's a lot of layers to it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of other trades look at us and are like, "Oh, good, he can twist wires. The electrician's here, right?" But the math and all the schooling behind it and stuff can get pretty intense.
Not only that, well, that's very true. But then you look at data centers, which are 60 to 70% electrical based. and then hospitals,
Totally. Yeah.
all the backup systems in hospitals. I mean, there's a lot that goes into our trade, and like you said, everyone thinks like, oh, they just twist wire nuts onto some wires and that's their whole job. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes
Yeah.
into it, which a lot of people don't realize.
Totally.
In Canada, I guess if you don't mind me asking, did you go through the apprenticeship there, or did you join and like test in? What was your route to be, I guess, going through?
Yeah, so in Canada, you can be indentured as an apprentice, which
Mm-hmm.
means that you're already working for an electrical company and they're essentially sponsoring you to start your schooling, or you can do what's called a pre-app. So I did the pre-app, so it's like
Nice.
a pre-apprenticeship, and it's a an extended period where they kind of teach you everything, as if you don't know how to hold a pair of pliers, you know? So you get a lot of practical and also your first level. So when you come out of it, you've done your first level of schooling, and
Nice.
then you basically take your subsequent years. It's not uniform all across Canada,
Mm-hmm.
to my knowledge. I think they have it structured a little different elsewhere, but in BC, it's four levels of schooling. So the pre-app, I believe it was either 24 or 36 weeks, and then um, subsequent schooling per level was 10 weeks after that,
Nice.
basically annually or whenever you hit your hours.
Nice. And, and I believe you may have already answered this. How long were you on the non-union side before, I guess, switching to the union? Was that 2 years?
I, I worked non-union for 2 years, yeah.
2 years. I guess before you made the jump into the union side of things, what were some things you had heard working non-union about the unions that may have not been, I guess that you come to find out was not correct information? Because I know out there there's a lot of, on both sides of the spectrum, whether you're non-union, you hear a lot of misleading
Totally.
things about the union, and if you work union, you hear a lot of misleading things about non-union. What were some of those for you going from non-union to union?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's pretty much staunchly against the other. It seems. I feel like a lot of it is the stuff that's being passed down to you. You go to work with your dad, and if he doesn't like unions, you come up not liking unions, stuff like that. I feel like the best thing you could do is work for both and kind of make your own decision instead of jumping on someone else's ideas and thoughts, right? Um,
Agree.
so when I was coming up non-union, you always hear, "Oh yeah, union guys are lazy, they're one-trick electricians, everything like that." And I suppose the biggest misconception would be the latter portion of that. Like, there's a lot of union electricians that are very well versed because they get placed around on different sites, and a lot of them are very, very skilled because
Mm-hmm.
of how, y- you know, a lot of the job tasks you get on site are very linear. You'll do one thing for, a set amount of time, and it
That's correct.
almost allows you to become a master at that one, and then you move to the next, right? So there's a lot of very skilled union electricians out there.
I would agree with that, and kind of like you, I started non-union before joining the union. To be honest, when I worked non-union, I never heard anything about the union. All I really knew growing
Right.
up were that unions were extremely hard to get into, which I know depending on where you're at in the world, that definitely can be the case. Where I'm at in Central Ohio,
Yeah.
at least when I got in, there was I mean, there's still a massive boom going on, but with my prior experience, I was able to get in pretty quickly, got into the apprenticeship and
Right.
went that route, which was interesting. But I have a saying, or not really a saying, but even the younger guys I've talked to in the trades, I always say I think it would open a lot of people's eyes on the union side if they worked non-union before ever joining the union. Um,
Absolutely.
I still
Yeah,
stand by
and I
that.
mean, I don't really think there's a downside to either.
No,
When I was working non-union, I learned how to work at a good pace. I learned a lot of good work ethic skills, and the 2 years that I was non-union, I got thrown on so many things. By the time I joined the union, I had a lot of skills that they were able to push me around on different sites and stuff and be able to be immediately effective. Whereas, like, so 993, which is the local I'm from, is a northern union, so they do a lot of work up north, power stations, hospitals, stuff like that, right? So let's say you're a second year and you've spent 2 years pulling cable and dressing tray and stuff like that. When you come down, it's hard to find work non-union because they're expecting you to basically already be able to wire a house and
Yeah,
stuff like that, and a lot of that is lost. So I learned a lot of really good things non-union before I made the jump, which was really good.
I would fully agree with that, especially at least the non-union company I worked for, all of it was residential. They did have one commercial guy, but I learned a lot of residential. And then when I joined the union, almost all of our work in my union, anyways, is commercial. So I know both sides of the
Yeah.
spectrum. Um, I think it's
Yeah.
at least the term electrician, you should be well rounded in all aspects. And if you're just commercial based, that's one thing. If you're just residential, that's one thing. But you want to have both sides of the pie, in my opinion. And I think that makes someone a well rounded electrician.
Totally.
So,
I think
uh,
that's one of my biggest fears is being like a one trick electrician, right? I think it's really important to chase down that experience and move around out of your comfort zone, because if you're uncomfortable, you're learning, right? And
yep.
that's so huge.
And I think that's, I hear it online that a lot of people say, especially on the commercial side of things, whether it's union or non union, that commercial electricians are just installers. And when I first heard it, I was like, you're crazy. But as I've progressed, I'm like, it kind of makes sense. We're kind of moving away from the electrical side of things and just becoming installers. There's a very small group that's actually well rounded electricians, in my opinion. And that's something.
Absolutely. No, I fully agree with you. Yeah.
I know prior to us talking, you had mentioned you have your Red Seal and FSRB certification. First and
Yeah.
foremost, I've never heard of those. What are those certifications, if you don't mind me asking, and have those allowed for career opportunities for yourself?
Sure. So yeah, the Red Seal electrician is essentially I passed my interprovincial certificate and I'm a journeyman license. So I
Oh,
basically
nice.
can work anywhere. And my FSRB is like a field service representative. So there's an FSRB and an FSRA.
Mm-hmm.
FSRA is for high voltage, so like over 1,000 volts. FSRB is under that essentially, and it's kind of the British Columbia term for master electrician.
Oh, nice.
That's
Okay.
how it would be noted if I was like in Alberta or something like that, right? It sounds fancy. It's not. Just because you have it does not make you a master. You're always learning. But it allows me to pull my own permits and get behind the actual litigation side of electrical as well for doing regulated work across the provinces and stuff, which is really key stuff and very boring at times, but I feel like it's really essential, especially if you ever want to grow past working for a company or anything like that. Like, it's really good stuff to know. And with the service position that I have, that I work for, we actually pull our own permits and
That's
stuff.
nice.
So it helped me get into the job that I'm in right now,
That's awesome.
which was excellent because it's about, I would say, the best position you could have, in my personal opinion, outside of like going up north. That's where the money is. That's where you get your LOA, everything like that. For in-town work, which is very, very important to me as I have a wife and a daughter,
Yeah,
and two dogs at home. I would say it's probably the best position you can have. So I'm really happy I was afforded that, and my career's taken me there.
that's awesome. I know you just mentioned it, but you said you run a service van. I know. I guess for myself, like going to the job site, I don't have a service van. I show up to the same job site typically for months or possibly a year plus on end. What does your
Right.
typical day look like running a service van? I mean, I know I have friends that or have a service van on the non-union side. I have a general idea, but for someone that isn't familiar with the trade, having a service van, what does your, I guess, average Monday morning look like?
Sure. So that one's a bit of a two-parter because with our company, there's only a few service technicians right now, and because we're I mean, we're in a busy location, but sometimes we have a project that comes along and somebody needs to step in and run that project. So right now I'm the foreman of that BC housing project that I was speaking about earlier. So my typical day right now is mostly going to that job site. As you said, it's months of work, but I also get moved around to take service calls when other service techs are busy and stuff like that, and just keep the boys going on the other site. So right now I'm managing that site as well as doing service. A typical day would be, you mobilize in the morning and you have your schedule kind of for the day. We basically get dispatched out to jobs, and a job could be a 3-day job, it could be a 1-hour job, it kind of depends on the calls coming in. So
That's awesome.
every day gets to be different, which is kind of the coolest thing about the job, because you're always learning, it's always different problems, you become kind of skilled at dealing with different situations, right? Like one day, I may get in the van, look at my schedule, and I'm headed to a service upgrade. And then the next day, I have to uh, do some retrofit lighting in a restaurant, and
That's
that's
pretty
a
cool.
5 hours. And then I get moved over to, a shipping company, and they want me to put in some general use receptacles in their warehouse,
That's
stuff like
awesome.
that, right? So and then before I get to every job, of course, you pull your permit for the work, do the paperwork side. When you're done, you write up your work orders, everything that is entailed in that. So, like material costs, everything like that, and basically submit it to the office, and they keep the paperwork rolling.
That's awesome. And from that perspective, you're also getting more than just the hands-on, I guess, like in-field side. You're getting the business side, which is a nice perspective to have, especially if you want to, I guess, jump into business someday, which I think is pretty cool. Myself being an ex-business owner,
Yeah,
always it's a pretty cool thing to see.
it really is, and it's nice seeing other walks of electrical as well. Like a part of being in the other company. To agree with your point, it's nice seeing kind of like what your project managers have to do and stuff like that. Because I think it's easy to resign to the thought that they're just sitting, in a nice comfy chair and twiddling their thumbs, playing on their phone while you're
That's
out in the
true.
cold or whatever. But it's nice to see like all these kind of portions working in unison to, accomplish the one goal, right?
That's very true. You kind of nailed it on the head right there. I had those kind of preconceived ideas at the beginning of this year. I actually took a superintendent role, and over the last 3 weeks, it's been pretty eye-opening to see the whole. I call it the business side of things. There's a lot that goes into it that I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
zero idea on. So it's been interesting to see. It's been eye-opening to say the least. I know that
It's
you.
nice to build that perspective, right?
Yes, it is very nice. It makes me more appreciative of the people in the office, because at one point I just thought, like, what are these people doing? Kind of like you said, they're just goofing around all day, playing on their phones, not
Yeah.
having any real purpose. And now that I see it from sitting back and
Yeah.
watching, it's like, okay, that wasn't the case at all. So it's added a new perspective to it
Yeah,
all.
totally.
You've built a online presence through or named Speedy Shark Electrician. What made you start posting content, and what do you enjoy most about it?
Yeah, I mean, I started posting it because no one in my normal daily life cared about what I do in
That
the
that
electrical trade. Honestly, like, it's like that age old saying, you're always pointing out work that you've done. You're driving with your wife and she's like, "Oh, cool. Can we just get to the restaurant or
Yeah,
whatever, right?" Or you're
that's true.
walking with some friends and you're like, "Oh, that's not up to code." And they're like,
Cool.
can you step away from work for a few minutes here, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, so it kind of started like that. It turned out as mostly just like, I don't know, I noticed that there was like a community out there of, like-minded people who cared about stuff like that. So naturally it started off real slow, and I actually got in trouble after about a month of doing my page. I used to post work stuff,
that's
and I had someone reach out to me, and they're like, "Just so you know, like your page is public, anyone can see it, and if you get caught on this site running your phone, you're going to get excused. And I will always try and do what I can to put food on my table. So if it meant burning my account to the ground, that's what I'm going to do. So essentially, I started posting tools because, I mean, how do you get mad at that? You don't, right? It's just pictures of tools, right? So it kind of started as that, and people were interacting with it a lot
Yeah.
and everything. And then, eventually you pass a certain threshold and companies start reaching out to you and they're like, hey, would you be interested in? And you start dealing these little content things and just feel like you're experiencing the coolest thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of just kept building from there. And I find that the community, for the most part, obviously not across the board fully, but for the most part, is so nurturing to other people learning and, cognizant of different abilities and everything like that. And there's just so many people where you interact with and can build such a cool relationship with, even though it's online. It's almost like fake, but not, which is
Yeah.
really cool. So I kind of just kept gravitating towards it. And, I noticed, hey, I can kind of monetize a little bit of my doom scrolling, as they call it,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
So it's like I can make use of a little bit of my time where I'm just sitting on the phone instead of just kind of doing nothing, right? Like, I have a rule in my house for myself: if I can monetize something, then it's worth keeping, right?
I
So
fully agree
that's
with
why I
that.
still have my cell phone to this day.
That's kind of going off of what you said. I started my pages initially wanting to do the same thing, post my work. Unfortunately, with a lot of the jobs I've been on, they require NDAs that clearly state like no
Yeah,
photography, no videography. So I realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to work. So I started posting the little
totally. Yeah.
I started posting the little meme videos, and here we are. So it's been interesting, but kind of like you said, I think a lot of people in at least the electrical sector of social media is pretty open-minded. I communicate with a lot of people, and they all seem to be pretty reasonable, like nice people, which I greatly appreciate. So it's been pretty cool to
Mhm.
evolve. I know you mentioned the tool aspect. I follow your account. I love your account. What is your favorite tool brand
Thank
out
you.
there?
You had to, huh? I think uh,
Or
mine's
what's your
mine's
favorite?
tiered, right? There's power tools, hand tools, niche tools.
Let's break it
But
down. If you had to do a power tool brand, if you don't mind, I guess stating one, and then like a hand tool brand. Oh, I
no
mean,
worries at all. I'm just trying to get out of the sun here.
no, you're good.
Um, oh, okay. So, power tool, without a doubt. I'm Team Red. I
Yep.
roll with Milwaukee for sure. I feel like, honestly, it's team best tool, right? Like, it's
Yep.
what you come up with, and it's the batteries that you have, right? Let's be honest.
That's
I
correct.
started with Milwaukee. Now I have a bunch of Milwaukee batteries, and so those are the tools that I follow,
Yeah.
right? And then when it comes to hand tools, I really, really, really enjoy my Knipex stuff.
Connect.
Um, I feel like, there's so many brands. Like, Weehaw is amazing. Racketeers makes great stuff. Jonard makes a lot of cool niche tools. But if I had to fill my bag with one power tool and one tool brand, it would be Milwaukee and Knipex.
So I fully agree with the Milwaukee aspect. I'm a huge Milwaukee fan. Hand tool wise, personally, I mean, I've never owned any outside of Klein. I've never really owned any other, I guess, hand tools. So I'm a big Klein fan personally. I've heard a lot of good things about.
Love.
Oh no, you're good.
I love Klein tools. I mean, the stuff that they come out with seems so intuitive, and I feel like a lot of people have been kind of down on them a little bit, saying that the
Yeah.
qualities went down and stuff. But like, at the same time, I don't have any problem with my tools, so
No,
I'm claiming user error because
I agree with
I've
that.
always had really good Klein tools. Yeah.
I've had my yeah. I fully agree with that. I feel like a lot of things people say, well, this is the quality's terrible, but then it's usually just user error or abuse in some manner. So those would be my
Yeah, I mean, you drop something enough times, it doesn't matter who makes the tool is going to break, right?
yeah. That's very true. Something a lot of people, I wouldn't, it's across the board, but especially in construction, because a lot of people know construction as, I guess, a lot of hours typically. Obviously, that varies. But being a dad, a husband, and then a dog owner, how how has that made you, I guess, prioritize things? Obviously, I'm going to assume that it's your family, but has it helped you a lot with your time management overall?
Honestly, I think yeah. I mean, feel I feel busy at all times, but
Yeah,
it's a thankful busy. I mean, I feel like my energies are almost boundless now because it just my priorities have shifted. As soon as my daughter came along last year, um, it's been transcending. Like everything's changed. All my priorities. I used to give work absolutely everything I could.
yeah,
Work overtime. Total yes man. Everything I could take, I absolutely would because I was chasing experience,
yeah,
and I was chasing money and everything like that. But as soon as Ava, my daughter, came around, it was such a revolution in my mind because I'm like, okay, well now everything has to change, and it has. It's centered me a lot. It's brought me home. I'm making more decisions to, be at home and stuff. But time management is huge. Building that organization so that you're fitting everything in and giving everything the proper consideration. Like you can't give your daughter everything because then you're not giving your wife anything at that point, right? You can't just focus on home because then your career takes a slip. So I feel like that balance, everyone has it in them, but if you follow, you know, it sounds corny, but if you follow your heart and you just work hard, the balance is there. You get to it, right? It's taken me like a good year to really really nail it down, and I'll probably hit some hiccups as Ava gets older and stuff, but I mean, right now I feel like it's helped my organization a ton. Yeah. When I think part of that is having like a partner who's supportive as well and willing to step in when you can't. And if your energy levels at zero, if you have someone that can read that and they got 20% left and they bleed that down to 10 so you can gain another 10, I mean that helps everything. That's a game changer, right? Is working in synchronicity with the person that you're with. So I'm grateful for that. My wife does great for that. And I mean it, and you can tell because she probably won't listen to this. Yeah, yeah, big time. Right, yeah. That's how you know they're good. If they stay with us when they're broke, there we go, right? Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, totally. Okay, so I'll start with the latter portion of that. I think the best thing that you can do is kind of do the same thing that I ended up doing, although it wasn't like a cognitive decision at the time. If you put in a little bit of time non-union, I feel like it will really allow you to be very effective moving to the union. Um, I see benefits of both. I'm not, wildly pro union by any means. I am pro union, but I don't care if someone's non-union. It doesn't change my opinion of them. We all choose our own paths, but I do believe that every worker out there should be protected. It's a dangerous trade. I feel like we get a lot of shelter with the union. We get a lot of training opportunities. We have inflated wages that scale with inflation. And I feel like that's a lot of stuff that is huge when it comes to living, wellness, everything like that. So yeah, I would say you do a year or two in your non-union, get a bunch of experience, and then go make your dollars, go get your benefits, go be protected. I think everyone deserves it. I do forget the first portion of that question though, if you wouldn't mind repeating that. Honestly, I think you can be taught anything electrical, but you can't be taught to be eager and have a good attitude. That's got to come from within. And I feel like a lot of people, they're like, "Oh yeah, well I don't get paid from, 6:45 to 7. I'm showing up at 7 and on the dot and whatever." And I honestly, you get what you put into it. I truly believe that. I feel like if you involve yourself, you immerse yourself, you chase that experience, and you do it, with an eager spirit and a positive attitude, that's going to take you as far as you want to go. So that's my advice would be eager, invest in yourself, and give everything you can and be positive.